Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
John, it's been 15 years since Jism, which was your first film. That film was a hit. You became an instant heartthrob. But the big question then was, he's got the looks, he's got the body, but will he last?
Yeah.
Here we are, 15 years later. You are still acting. You're also a producer.
Right. I think it's self-conviction, and it's about convincing yourself first that you can do it. So I still remember a numerologist actually said after Jism, his numbers add up to so and so, he's not going to last after Jism. And yeah, it's been 15 years, so I'm thankful to, I'm really genuinely thankful to the audience, I'm thankful to the industry, the trade. And you know, when I first came in, Rajiv, I was new to criticism. But now I've learned to take criticism very constructively, work on myself, and I think with each film I've tried to improve.
Is it then, John, self-conviction? Is that what really kept you afloat? Because it really has been a roller coaster journey, hasn't it? I mean, there have been the highs, but there have been patches where films didn't work. The critics have frequently been harsh. What was it that sort of helped, that kept you afloat? What was it that helped you survive? Would you say it's this self-conviction?
Only self-conviction. I don't have parents in this industry, so it's not like my father or my mother could pick up the phone on someone.
Correct.
Or I don't have camps. I don't belong to any camp. So it's not like I could run to someone and say, please help me. So it's just about believing in yourself and telling yourself that you're worth it, that you can do it. And when you believe that, Rajiv, even you, anybody who's watching this program, and you believe in yourself, it manifests. And I think it is about manifesting what you believe in. So and that's the only reason why I've lasted. And like you said, I've become a producer now. I always wanted to be a producer after my 4th film. Because I wasn't doing the kind of films that I wanted to do. I mean, after Jism, which I thought was a fantastic film, I had 4 duds in a row. And when I had those 4 duds, you know, I had Lakir and I had Madhoshi and I had Saya. Though Saya was still a nicer film. I was like, what the hell am I doing? Look at the kind of films I'm doing. I told myself I need to produce and I need to make the kind of films I want to see as an audience, which is why...
I feel like right after Jism, you were fighting that whole... You know, you were fighting the fact that people were only talking about your looks. You wanted to kind of hide that and you were desperate to prove that you can act. It wasn't until Dhoom came along, which seemed to kind of, you know, integrate the fact that you can't fight the looks. That's you know, you look like, it felt like Dhoom was the right material for a guy who looked like that, and therefore that was the turning point.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. Aditya Chopra, I credit him with one thing where I'm concerned. He knew how to position me rightly, and with Dhoom, he told me, he said you're not going to have a heroine, you're going to have no songs, you're not going to have the funny lines, you're not going to have the romance. But you're going to have bikes and you love motorcycles. And I said, yes, that's what I want. Can I choose my bike? And I think the fit was right. And that's what actually got me out into the masses. But to answer your other question, it was always like what Dustin Hoffman told Robert Redford, that whatever you do, you'll always wear an albatross around your neck. It's always going to be about the way you look. I come from a marketing background, Rajiv. And for me, I understood that initially it was about my body and the way I look. And I used that to my advantage. So I kept building my commercial base using that. With certain films that I enjoy doing. Like I love doing Garam Masala, I love doing Dhoom, and I love doing Dostana, I love doing... But at the same time, I started doing films that started failing. Water, No Smoking, Kabul Express, you know, and started moving up that. And then I started producing where I did the Wiki Donors and the Madras Cafes. So I think it was a gradual progression, but then I tried to get there.
But John, when the films weren't working, you know, when that initial slate of films came along, before Dhoom perhaps, did you have moments of insecurity? Did you have moments of self-doubt? Did you ever wonder if you could keep up? You know, when the chips were down, was there ever a worry that this might be it?
Things happened too fast. So whilst those films failed, my next ones were already in production. So to be very honest with you, it all happened so fast that before I knew it, a film failed. Before I knew it, a film was a hit. So things just moved too fast. It's only now, Rajiv, in life that Parmanu, case in point, 2 years you wait and you ponder and you think that, you know, I'm concentrating on content. Is this going to work? Is this not going to work? It's happened today.
Right.
But then things were moving really fast.
You know, the reason I ask you about this is because, John, you, unlike so many of the other actors, you know, especially some of the younger ones, Ranveer, Varun, Alia, who've said that they wanted to be actors all along. They were gearing up from childhood to become actors. You actually were an accidental actor.
Absolutely.
You sort of stumbled into it. It happened by chance. I mean, you
Yeah.
were, of course, you know, doing your marketing MBA, and then modeling happened, and then
Right.
sort of acting happened.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, you know, like you said, I mean, it wasn't you didn't know anyone. You entered this business from the
Right.
cold. Therefore, did you, you know, being the outsider, did you ever have self-doubt?
Actually, no, because when I came in my time, I was the last of the so-called supermodels that existed, and
Right.
after that, the actors started getting all the work.
Right.
I wanted to be the best model there is in this country. Very
Yeah.
simple. When Mahesh Bhatt called me and he said, son, I want a younger Sanjay Dutt who has the physicality but the vulnerability on the face, and you suit it. Would you do a film for my daughter? And I said, yeah, sure, what's the film about? And that was Jism.
Right.
I didn't know at that point, I didn't understand what, you know, a house full is or a hit is.
Correct.
Mukesh Bhatt kept going, you know, like, oh, it's house full
Right.
everywhere. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I realized that only when my next 4 films failed.
Right.
I was like, oh man, that was like serious stuff, the houseful part. But I didn't have any moment of self-doubt because I thought being an actor was a bonus. I always wanted to be a model. Modeling was never a means to an end in
Sure.
acting. Today, young kids come in, they model because they want to act, or they come from film families.
Right.
And they always wanted to be actors. They've grown up on production sets. So it's a different kind of an ambition that exists today.
It's also very clear from the films that you produced that you're interested in cinema of some quality, cinema
Yeah.
of some meaning. I mean, of the 5 films that you produced, 3 are Wiki Donor, Madras Cafe, and now Parmanu.
Yeah.
None of which can be described as a sure thing at the box office. I mean, these are interesting
Yeah.
films, but many would say risky films.
Absolutely, yeah, because they're non-formula. And I think where I come in, because being a management student, there's a saying, the higher the risk, the greater the profits. And I think being a management student, you learn to take those risks, but they're calculated risks.
Yeah.
And if you cut the cloth according to the length and keep the budgets within a certain space, then everybody in the distribution chain could make money if your films work. And I took those risks. And if you ask me, who did I turn to for advice? I just went by my gut.
Right.
So all my creative processes as a producer are run on my gut. If I feel in my head that a film could do well, I will make it happen.
Sure.
Parmanu, I'm shocked. In 20 years, no one's thought of a subject like this. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
This is the biggest case of nuclear espionage in the world. We haven't thought of this. And it's a very difficult subject to, you know, put out there in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Talk about fusion bombs, fission bombs, shafts, sub-kiloton, etc. But how do you make this engaging for an audience?
True.
How do you tell a young audience that doesn't even know that these tests have happened,
Right.
that it's cool to be Indian today because of what happened on the 11th of May 1998? And that was the challenge I had. And I
Right.
took it up and I hopefully have delivered.
You know, since we're speaking of Parmanu, this is of course a film based on the nuclear tests that India conducted in the Pokhran range in Rajasthan in 1998. This is a very controversial chapter in our country's history. Even 20 years later, we're still debating whether those tests have made India safer and whether it's improved our
Right.
nuclear technology. But looking at the trailer, it appears that you're telling the story of the days and the hours leading up to the tests.
Yeah.
You've treated it like a thriller?
It's so the first thing I did, Rajiv, was when we decided to do this film. My development head is Sayukta Chawla. She also co-wrote Nirja with Saiban.
That's right.
So I got the same team back to write Parmanu, the Nirja team. And I took everybody into a room and I made them watch Argo again. I made them watch Eye in the Sky. And I told them, I asked them a question. I said, do you know why I'm making you watch this? And they said, yeah, but we've seen these films. And I said, I'm making you watch this because I don't want my film to be overtly patriotic.
Right.
I don't want my film to be jingoistic. I want my film to be an on the edge of the seat thriller. And that's the way my director wanted it.
Right.
So Abhishek and I were completely on the same page. And of course, I can say anything here in this interview, but my director is the hero of the film.
Right.
And Abhishek's done a fantastic job. And once they saw it, they understood the graph that they needed to kind of sketch out when they were writing this. So Parmanu, and I'm saying this, I'm letting the cat out of the bag, the entire second half, I hopefully wouldn't allow you to breathe.
Right.
Because I wanted my film to be, it's a sub 2-hour film.
Okay.
And I wanted to be boom, 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 boom. I don't want you to breathe. I don't want you to sit back for a second, pick up your phone. I don't want those lights to light up the entire auditorium.
Right.
And if I'm successful in doing that, then I made a good film. My first half is setting the story. Let my first half take its time.
Right.
But my second half is boom.
John, when you're making a film on a subject like Pokhran, you're making a film like Parmanu, what's the trick in telling that story and conveying volumes of information? Because there's so much information, there are so many, there are so many parties involved. How do you do that without A, making it too dense and giving too much information, and B, at the same time, not dumbing it down to the point where people say, oh, this is just silly. Because enough films do that. They take a serious subject and then it becomes almost like a joke. What's the trick to conveying that? Because, the thing about Madras Cafe, great film, a lot of people felt too dense, too much information. How do you sort of strike that balance?
I think you've answered the question in your question. I think Madras Cafe taught me a lot. Madras Cafe was too intelligent, too much of information. Fantastic film. I mean, Shujit made a fantastic film, but it reached a very small audience because they said, hey, listen, there's too much of information coming down, With Parmanu, I wanted to reach out to the lowest common denominator without dumbing the film down.
Right.
So, A, you get a lot of information, stick to the credibility of your information. Do not take so many creative liberties where people say it's a film and not true.
Right.
Secondly, you don't want to tell a documentary, so you make it an engaging thriller. Thirdly, pressy that information, simplify it so you reach the lowest common denominator. And I've tried to tick all those boxes whilst making this.
John, it's no secret that you had a very public falling out with your co-producer Prerna Arora of Kriaj Entertainment. You accused her of not keeping her end of the deal, of not making the payments required to complete the film, and of other irregularities. Since then, of course, the matter went to court and a stay that she tried to put on the release of the film was thrown out by the court. What happened? Was this a difficult film to make?
Yeah, I think releasing this film was like conducting the nuclear tests in Pokhran, very honestly, We were running against time. We had a great film. And, honestly, at this point of time, Rajiv, I wouldn't want to, sling mud in public and be demeaning towards the people who are involved with this film. But I would like to be thankful, and I'd like to say this on record, I'd like to be thankful to the Honorable High Court and Judge Kathawala, who saw through and immediately understood the honesty and the intent with which I made this. And in 2 minutes, meted out his order. And I think that speaks volumes. I could say anything here, it would be my side of the story. But when the High Court actually mets out an order, it's very clear out there in public domain who's a guilty party and who's not. But saying that, that's all behind me. I'm looking in front. There is collateral damage already. I have only 10 days to push this film. But saying that, the word of mouth will be very strong on this film. I'm confident about that. And we'll salvage whatever we can. And it's a great film.
John, I read an interview in which you said that what this episode taught you was that it's really each man for himself in this industry.
Oh yeah, totally.
You've said that you were disappointed that no one from the industry came forward to support you while you had your back against the wall.
Well, I think I was curious as to why people who monies were owed to did not come forward.
Right.
So I don't know whether I was as disappointed. I understand that Bhansali would have fought his own battle. How many people could really help him in that battle? So I think when you're fighting this battle, you have to understand first of all that it's each man to himself, that it's your battle alone. You shouldn't expect the industry to come, and they've got their own problems. Everybody deals with their own problems, and they wake up in the morning, from their hair problems to their Botox problems to all their problems. There's 20,000 problems that they have. So I think it's a battle you have to fight. You have to be gracious about it. But to be fair, there were certain people who stood behind me, not really coming out there in the open, but stood behind me and spoke to me and said, John, don't worry, we're there.
Right.
And I think one of those people was Karan, who actually stood behind me and said, I'm there. Nana Patekar, for example. I from the most unexpected person who I probably have not spoken to in years, called me and said, bro, I know you have a problem, and that's Arjun Rampal, So, but people you would have expected.
When the chips are down is when you really know who your friends are, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.